I heard the crying before I saw anything. It was faint at first, like a baby in distress, but sharper, wilder. I was walking along the old hunting path my grandfather used to patrol every spring. It had been overgrown for years, and I only cleared it up last week. Morning mist still clung to the underbrush, and the air was heavy with wet pine. Then I heard it again, a high-pitched yelp, repeated, panicked. Something was wrong. I pushed through the thicket toward the sound and found myself standing at the edge of an old stone well, nearly hidden under moss and fallen branches. And there it was, at the bottom, a bear cub. It had to be no older than a few months. Soaked, shivering, claws scraping against the slick stones, trying to climb. But there was no way up. The well had no rope, no bucket, just cold stone and darkness. I froze. My instinct screamed at me to do something, but I had nothing on me. No rope, no ladder, just my phone in my pocket and my hands shaking. That's when I heard something behind me, a soft rustle. I turned, expecting maybe the mother, God, not the mother, but it wasn't that. It was a lynx, a full-grown one, broad-shouldered, lean, with those unmistakable tufted ears and yellow eyes. She stepped silently from the underbrush like a ghost, her paws barely touching the ground. For a second, we just stared at each other. I should have run. I know that. You don't make eye contact with predators in the wild. But something held me there. Then she moved. Not toward me, but toward the well. She padded up to the edge and looked down. The cub squealed again. And I swear, I saw something shift in her posture. She leaned in carefully, then backed up a few paces. I stood in disbelief as she disappeared into the brush. I thought she was leaving. But less than a minute later, she returned. With a thick branch in her mouth. She dropped it at the edge of the well and pushed it with her front paws. It was long enough that one end dangled down into the darkness. I heard a scrambling sound, the cub trying to climb. I pulled out my phone. My hands were still trembling, but I hit record. The lynx sat still, eyes locked on the well. Waiting. Took nearly 10 minutes, but finally, the cub's small claws caught on the bark. Bit by bit, it pulled itself up. The branch bent under its weight, but it held. I didn't breathe. When the cub finally tumbled out onto the grass, it didn't run. It just lay there, exhausted, panting. The lynx approached. I expected her to attack, but she didn't. She sniffed the cub, circled it once, then lay down beside it. Protective. Still. Watching. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. The sun had fully broken through the trees by the time I realized I needed to move. I backed away slowly. I didn't want to interrupt whatever the hell I had just witnessed. I returned home, my grandfather's cabin, still not fully understanding what I'd seen. That evening, I played the video back a dozen times. It didn't make more sense the second, third, or 12th time. A lynx had saved a bear cub. That wasn't just rare, it was unheard of. There was no logical explanation. I thought about calling someone, a wildlife researcher, the local ranger, even the news. But something in my gut told me to wait, to keep it to myself for now. I left the phone on the table and sat by the fire. The wind picked up outside. I heard branches tapping against the tin roof. Then I heard it. Scratch, scratch, at the door. Slow, deliberate, claws against wood. I stood up slowly. My heartbeat climbed. Another scratch. I took a step toward the door. Silence. Then one more. Sharp, urgent. I reached out and slowly turned the knob. I opened the door just a crack, but there was nothing there. Just the dark outline of the trees, the moonlit path leading into the woods, and a single paw print on the porch. Bigger than a lynx. Too small for a grown bear. It was still wet, fresh. I closed the door, bolted it, and stepped back. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept watching the window, waiting for the scratching to return. The next morning, I stepped out onto the porch, still shaken from the night before. The scratching, those deliberate, clawed scrapes, had stopped just after midnight, but I didn't sleep a second after that. I sat by the window, clutching my flashlight like a weapon, every creak in the old wooden walls making my heart pound. Now, in the daylight, I wanted to believe I had imagined it all, but I hadn't. The porch boards were damp from morning dew, and in the soft mud just beyond the steps were prints. The first ones were familiar, feline, round, large. The lynx. She had come to my door. But beside them, just half a step behind, were boot prints. Human, not mine. My blood ran cold. Someone had been out here with her. Were following her. Were following me. I crouched to inspect them closer. Standard hiking tread, but deep. Whoever it was had weight. Probably a man. They circled around the side of the house and vanished into the woods. I stood up and scanned the treeline. Nothing moved. No wind, no birdsong. Just that suffocating silence I was starting to notice more and more. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I needed to talk to someone who knew these woods better than I did. Someone who wasn't on the internet. Someone real. So I grabbed my jacket and drove down the twisted mountain road to the ranger station. It was about 30 minutes from the cabin, tucked at the edge of a small town that barely had a working gas station. The place looked deserted. One truck out front, engine still warm. I knocked on the door. A few seconds later, it creaked open. Behind it stood a wiry old man with a face like weathered leather and tired, sharp eyes. He wore the forest like a second skin. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice rough like gravel. "You're George, right? The forest ranger." "Used to be. Retired last fall. Still check in from time to time." "I need to show you something." He hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked in. The station smelled like old coffee and pine. Papers were stacked on every surface. I pulled out my phone and opened the video. This was yesterday morning, near an old well, about 1.5 miles north of Pine Hook Trail. He watched, silent. His eyes didn't blink once. When the lynx dropped the branch into the well, his jaw clenched. When the bear cub climbed out, he muttered under his breath, "Jesus." I paused the video. "Have you ever seen anything like that?" He didn't answer for a moment. Then he turned and poured himself a mug of cold coffee. Took a sip. Still didn't look at me. "You said Pine Hook?" he finally asked. "Yeah. Shouldn't be any wells out that way. Place was cleared decades ago. That trail's been closed since the fire in '98. There's a well, and there were prints. Fresh ones. Human and animal. The lynx came to my door last night. So did someone else. That got his attention." He turned to me, eyes narrower now. "Describe the prints." I did. He listened without a word, then sat down in the creaky chair behind the desk. He rubbed his forehead hard. "I'll tell you this," he said. "That lynx ain't acting natural. Not by a long shot. I've tracked her kind for 50 years. They don't help. They don't wait. And they sure as hell don't come to people's doors." "Then what's going on?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, "Animals have been disappearing. At first we thought it was migration patterns shifting. Climate crap. Then it was poachers. Now I think it's worse. Smarter." I leaned in. "You think someone's doing this?" He nodded. "There's a pattern. Young ones vanish. Adults show signs of injury. Places go quiet. I filed reports, but they get buried. Town council doesn't want the trouble. They say the economy needs tourists, not panic." I sat back, heart pounding again. "Then what do we do?" He looked me dead in the eye. You go home. You lock your doors. You forget what you saw." "I can't." He sighed. "Then you'd better be ready." I stood to leave. He didn't say goodbye. On the way back up the road, I kept checking the rearview mirror. Nothing. But I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. By the time I pulled into the driveway, dusk had settled over the hills. I left the truck running and walked to the porch. There, on the step, sat the bear cub. I froze. He looked up at me, weak, confused, like he didn't know where else to go. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Beyond the treeline, half hidden in shadow, stood a man, motionless, watching. As soon as I turned to face him, he moved, fast, disappeared into the trees without a sound. I ran to the edge, but there was nothing. No trace, no sound, just the cub behind me whining softly. I picked him up. He was lighter than I expected. I carried him inside, locked the door, and checked every window twice. The cabin felt smaller now. I sat by the fire again, the cub curled up on a blanket. Outside, the woods held their breath. I was in it now, too deep to turn back. I couldn't stop thinking about the man I saw, the way he stood there, completely still, like he had all the time in the world to watch me, like he belonged there more than I did. That morning, I packed a backpack. Flashlight, multi-tool, some jerky, a full water bottle. I told myself I was just going to retrace my steps, to confirm what I saw, but I knew better. I wasn't just chasing answers. I was chasing that feeling, the one that told me something terrible was hiding in the woods. I left the bear cub inside. He was still weak, but eating now. I had no idea what I was doing trying to care for him, but he trusted me, or maybe he had no choice. I parked the truck farther away this time and hiked in on foot, making sure no one followed. Every snap of a twig had me spinning around. By noon, I reached the well. The area looked the same at first. Moss-covered stones, sun filtering through the trees, birds chirping faintly in the distance. But then I noticed something new. A scuff mark in the dirt. Boot tread. Recent. And then I looked into the well. This time, I saw more than just stone and shadows. A rope, half buried beneath leaves and dirt at the base of the well, tied to a rusted metal hook drilled into the inner wall. It wasn't visible from the surface unless you leaned in just right. This wasn't an accident. The cub hadn't just wandered here and fallen. This was a trap. I backed up, stomach twisting. Something metallic glinted nearby. I moved toward it and brushed away pine needles. A small, black camera like a wildlife cam, cracked down the middle, wires exposed. It had been torn from a tree and smashed. Recently, I turned it over. The lens was shattered, but a small SD card still sat in the slot. I pocketed it. Back at the clearing, I circled wider. I noticed thin fishing lines strung low between two trees, just above ankle height. It was a snare. Someone had been setting traps out here, sophisticated ones. I pulled out my phone and started searching. Illegal wildlife trade plus mountain region plus bear cub plus lynx. The results were immediate. A few recent news pieces from wildlife organizations. Mentions of increased black market activity in rural areas. Young animals being captured, tranquilized, transported. Some were for private collectors, others for illegal zoos. One article mentioned behavior changes in predator species, citing cases where animals had been found near human dwellings in obvious distress, like they were running from something worse. I sat down on a rock, the wind stirring around me. I looked around and suddenly saw it differently. This place wasn't wild. It was being hunted. I moved deeper into the woods. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just followed a hunch, a strange pull like gravity in my chest. About 20 minutes later, I found it. A tent. Not the kind a camper would use. Olive green, military style, no logo, no campfire, no sleeping bag. It was half concealed by brush and branches. I crouched, listened, no movement. I unzipped it slowly. Inside, a folding table with a map pinned open. Red circles around several spots, including the well. A field kit of syringes, small vials, some with labels I couldn't understand. GPS tags the size of almonds. A small tablet lay under a tarp, dark screen smudged with fingerprints. I pressed the power button. Turned on. No password. A map app auto-launched. A signal blinked. Active. My location. A blue dot. And then another icon lit up. A vehicle. Moving fast. Coming closer. I shut it off and bolted out of the tent. Through the trees I heard it, an engine. Not a car. An ATV. Close. I ducked and sprinted. Lungs on fire. Feet hammering the uneven ground. Behind me, the engine roared louder. I cut left, then right, hoping the trees would slow them down. Finally, I found a slope and dove into a gully, covering myself with wet leaves and branches. The ATV passed not 20 feet above, tires grinding dirt, then fading. I didn't move for 15 minutes. When I crawled out, shaking, I took a long, silent path back to my truck. I didn't drive straight home. I stopped by a coffee shop in town with public Wi-Fi. I plugged the SD card into my laptop. Most of the footage was corrupted, but one file opened. Blurry night vision. The bear cub, being dangled over the well by a gloved hand. No face visible, just the cub crying, panicked. Then the hand let go. I slammed the laptop shut. It wasn't random. Someone had staged it. For what, I still didn't understand. A warning? A test? Back at the cabin, the cub greeted me weakly. I looked at him and realized he wasn't just a survivor. He was bait, and someone still wanted him back. I didn't sleep again. After watching that footage, the bear cub dangled over the well like some sick offering. I couldn't shake the image. My thoughts looped all night. Who filmed that? Why was it recorded? What kind of person does that to a baby animal? By morning, my decision was made. I was leaving. I didn't care about the cabin anymore. Let it rot. I just wanted out. I threw a duffel together, scooped up the cub. He whimpered but didn't resist and carried him to the truck. The moment I turned the key, my phone buzzed. No number, just a location pin. A dot, pulsing red, right on top of my cabin. I looked up at the tree line. Nothing. I left the truck running and sprinted back to the porch. I dug through every window frame, gutter, beam. It didn't take long. Under the back railing, a tracker. Small, black, taped in place. I yanked it off and smashed it under my boot. Too late. As I turned, I heard the engine. Not my truck. Another one closer. Rougher. Tires grinding gravel. I ran back to the cab, threw the truck in reverse, and peeled down the road. The bear cub shifted in the passenger seat, breathing heavy. His bandaged leg looked worse today. Half a mile down, the signal died. No service. Of course. I hit the trailhead and took the logging road east. Old and unmaintained, but passable. I figured if I could get close to town, I could go to the sheriff, tell them everything. But the forest wasn't done with me. Around the second bend, a tree blocked the road. Not fallen, cut. Deliberately dropped. Trap. I slammed the brakes. The cub yelped. I backed up, turned too fast, clipped a stump. The truck jolted, tires spinning. Then I saw movement. To the right, through the trees, two figures. Camouflage. Rifles. No time to think. I grabbed the cub, flung open the door, and bolted. Branches whipped my face. My boots slipped on wet moss. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Gunshots cracked behind me. Loud. Sharp. Bark exploded off a trunk to my left. I zigzagged, kept low. The cub pressed against my chest, limp but breathing. After what felt like an hour, I dropped behind a rock outcrop and listened. Nothing. No voices. No footsteps. Just wind. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the flashlight. I waited until it passed, then made my way back toward the old service trail. No phone signal. No GPS. But I knew this area. Granddad taught me well. By dusk, we were back at the cabin. I didn't turn on lights, just the fireplace. I placed the cub down on a towel, cleaned his wound. Something sharp had torn his flank. Not natural. A wire? A trap? He watched me the whole time. No fear, just quiet pain. We both jumped when the knock came. Not a knock, something landed. I opened the door slowly. A dead rabbit. Eyes missing. Left neatly on the welcome mat. I closed the door, locked every bolt, and pulled the curtains shut. I sat in the center of the room, gun in lap. I hadn't fired it in years. I checked the chamber. One shell. I barely moved until morning. At sunrise, I drove back into town, straight to the sheriff's office. The woman at the front desk raised an eyebrow as I stepped in, blood still on my sleeve, eyes sunken from no sleep. "I need to speak with someone," I said. "It's urgent." She looked me over, picked up the phone, mumbled something, then nodded toward a room in the back. A deputy met me, younger than me, but worn in the face. "Let me guess," he said. "You've been up by the ridge." I blinked. "How do you? We get one or two of you every year." "Of me? Out-of-towners. Think they've seen something, heard something, saw a big cat or strange men in camo. You're not the first." "I have proof," I said. "Footage. Camera. Tent in the woods. Someone tried to kill me yesterday." He didn't flinch, just nodded slowly. "And you brought all that with you?" "No," I said. "I had to run. I left it. But I can take you there." He leaned forward, voice lower. "Look, whatever you think you saw, forget it. For your own sake." I stared at him. "You're serious?" He stood. "This county doesn't mess with the forest. You shouldn't either." I opened my mouth, but his look stopped me. That was it. I stepped outside, more confused than ever. I sat in the truck, hands on the wheel, not ready to start it. Then the phone rang. Private number. I answered. Static. Then George's voice. "They're coming." "Who?" Click. No goodbye. No answer. Just the silence of a man who already knew what was coming. I drove home in a daze. The cub was where I left him, curled tight in a blanket. But I knew something was wrong. The air was heavy, thicker, like the trees were watching. That night, I lit a fire and sat for hours. No scratching, no knocks, no movement. But the lynx never came back. The night was silent. Not calm, just empty. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl because you know something should be moving, breathing, breaking twigs underfoot, and isn't. I sat with the cub by the dying fire. He had grown stronger, even stood on his own today. His eyes followed me more now, full of some quiet intelligence I couldn't explain. The clock on the mantel read past midnight when I saw her. The lynx. She stood at the edge of the trees, just past the reach of the porch light. Her body low, tense, like she had been waiting. She didn't blink. She turned and walked into the woods. I hesitated only for a second before grabbing my flashlight and stepping outside. I didn't call after her. I just followed. The cub stirred inside the house but didn't cry out. Maybe he understood something I didn't. The forest swallowed me quickly. The light from the house faded behind me. The lynx moved just fast enough that I had to stay focused to keep up, but slow enough that I could. She led me deeper than I'd ever gone. I didn't hear a single owl. No leaves rustling. No wind. Then the lynx stopped. She crouched low behind a fallen log. I joined her, heart pounding. Ahead, in a clearing dimly lit by moonlight, stood something that made my stomach drop. A metal cage, large, reinforced. Inside it, a fox, a raccoon, 2 small lynx kittens, all alive, all terrified, and standing beside it, facing away from me, was George. I didn't understand. He was in full ranger gear, though I knew he was retired. He knelt down beside a box, supplies. I recognized the GPS tags, the syringes. He was checking something on a tablet, calm, focused. Then he spoke. "I figured you'd follow her," he said, without turning. I froze. She always was smarter than the rest. Never did what we expected. He finally turned, and when he saw me, he smiled. Soft, familiar, like he was proud. "You never asked the right questions," he said. "Never wondered why no one helps. Why the police don't investigate." I felt cold from the inside out. "You work for them?" He nodded. "I protect what's left of this place the only way I can. I control the flow. Animals go missing, yes, but not all of them. I make sure the damage is limited. You drug them. You tag them." He shrugged. "Better than what the others would do. Some go to reserves, some to labs. It's complicated." I took a step forward. "You're selling them." His face changed. He didn't deny it. "Don't be naive. There's no such thing as a pure wilderness anymore. Everything's got a price." I opened my mouth, but I didn't get the chance to speak. The lynx leapt. She launched from the shadows like a missile, straight at George's throat. He screamed, went down hard. The tablet flew from his hands. Blood hit the ground. She didn't stop. I ran forward, unsure what I was doing. Helping? Stopping her? But I couldn't reach them. It was over too fast. George's body twitched once, then stilled. The lynx stepped back, chest heaving. She looked at me, just for a moment, then vanished into the trees. I stood there, shaking, staring at the blood, the cages, the gear. I didn't touch anything. I didn't want to. I opened the cage. The animals didn't run. They crawled out slow, uncertain. I backed away, watching them disappear into the dark. Then I turned and walked back to the cabin. The cub was still waiting. The next morning, I packed everything. I didn't call the police. I didn't tell the news. I left the cabin keys on the table, picked up the cub, and drove away. I've never gone back. I moved to a small town 3 counties over. No forests, no mountains. I gave the cub to a sanctuary under a fake name. They asked questions I didn't answer. I never told them about the lynx. Weeks passed. Then one morning I saw him, the cub, standing on the edge of a cornfield, staring at me from the tree line. He was older now, stronger, alone. And behind him, I swear I saw something move, a flash of gray fur, a twitch of an ear. But when I looked again, nothing, just the wind and silence. Not peace, just silence.